There was an old TV show I remember called The Odd Couple. Interesting scenario. Two opposite characters were put together, forced to live as roommates. And that was, of course, the foundation of a very funny show that went on for a while. I'm coming here to talk to you also about an odd couple. The couple that I'm talking about, though, is the body and soul. The very beginning of our story starts off with two friends, two partners in creation. Body and soul were created to work together to attain one common goal, dveikut with Hashem, becoming attached to Hashem through fulfilling the will of God. And that's how things were in the very beginning. When Adam Harishon was created, before anything went wrong, his body and soul were united in perfect harmony. Ahuvim, two beloveds that were partnered up, and both the soul and body illuminated. There's an interesting idea we talk about in Havdalah. We look at our fingernail. When people ask, why are we doing that? So of course they mention one of the teachings from the rabbis that once upon a time before Adam sinned, his entire body was similar to the fingernail. That was his skin. So essentially the nail is transparent, like a glass. And that's the description of the body before the sin. Before man sinned, the body was like a glass that illuminated what was inside it. There was no concealment, nothing negative about it. And that's what we have to remember, that is this nail that we can see through it. Ultimately, body and soul worked together, and they were both illuminating. They both were like lights, the great light and the small light. And when man sinned, so then these two partners became enemies. And that's when this odd couple, so to speak, begins. Because now the body becomes coarse and like the skin that covers over what's inside of it. That's why man is called a small world, because the word for world means concealment. The body covers over the neshama. It actually imprisons the neshama, and the neshama becomes trapped inside. And that's a result of the first sin. So you have body with its agenda. It wants to dominate and control the soul, trap it inside. But the soul in there needs to express itself, and it's fighting to escape and through Torah and mitzvahs fulfill its purpose. And that is the unfortunate connection of body and soul after the sin. Now let us look at the first few verses and hopefully see in these verses a hint to this story. We read, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashemayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning God created heaven and earth. Heaven represents the spiritual realms, and earth represents the physical realms. Here is a hint to body and soul. The rabbis explain heaven and earth can also be a reference to the soul, which comes from heaven, and the body, which comes from earth. Now, if we look at the wording in Hebrew, there's the word et, that separates. It says, ve'et haaretz. It says, hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Now, there's an interesting discussion in Masechet Megillah that says the word ve'et separates. There's a discussion there which tries to connect all of the different days that we read the Megillah, and they say if the word ve'et wouldn't be there, then we could connect all of the days. But since ve'et is in the middle, it separates the days. Here too we can appreciate the same idea, that because the word ve'et comes between shamayim va'aretz, so that hints to the idea of the separation between body and soul. This of course is speaking about after the sin. The verses continue, ve'ha'aretz haita tohu va'vohu. And the earth was darkness and bewilderment, empty. This is the story of a person when he's born, because originally, right when a person is born, the first entity that comes into him is the Yetzer Hara. He's born immediately with this evil inclination. That evil inclination is called in the Zohar an old foolish king, because his goal is to manipulate the situation and control the life of the person and direct it only towards doing bad. He's called a foolish king because even though he's in charge, but he has no idea of the right way to go. He walks in darkness. And that's the hint to this darkness in the beginning of creation, that the earth is dark because the body that's controlling everything doesn't have a clear vision of where to go, and therefore the Yetzer Hara pulls it in the negative direction. But the verse continues, V'ruach Elokim merachefet al pnei hamayim. But the Spirit of God is hovering over the waters. Now, we know that this divine soul doesn't come into the body fully until bar mitzvah. So unfortunately, this good inclination is not able to battle and combat the evil inclination in the beginning. And that's why here it's referred to hovering over. It doesn't come in and is not able to fight in the beginning. Vayomer Elokim yehi or vayhi or. Vayar Elokim et haor ki tov. But eventually, God creates the light. And the light is the light of Torah. And when the person becomes bar mitzvah, then the good inclination comes in fully. And the Zohar calls him a young child, Yeled Chacham Misken, a young, unfortunate child, because by then, when the good inclination finally comes in, so the evil inclination has took control of the body for so long, the person is already sort of set in the wrong direction. And now the soul has an uphill battle, so to speak. It has to gain control over the body and oust the king that's currently in charge, which is the Yetzer Hara. So how does the Yetzer Tov push away the Yetzer Hara? So here we have a hint to the Torah. The Torah is called Or. God created the Torah, which is called light. And when you light up a candle, a dark room becomes very bright. And it's the light of Torah, the wisdom of Torah, that is the bridge that helps the Yetzer Tov communicate with the person and slowly, slowly push away and overcome the Yetzer Hara. And that is the idea of, when we talk about the makeup of a person, he has a body and a soul, which are enemies. But what can come now and make peace between these two enemies is the brain, the intellect. The intellectual soul that a person has is that bridge between the two. And it's through the learning of Torah that one can connect and show the body that there's a better way, that a person doesn't have to follow the foolish way of the evil inclination, because that's going to end in destruction. And we educate slowly, slowly the person, and the person then can shift his life in the direction of Torah and mitzvot. Now, again, we're not saying that a person should give up what appears to him as the good life and suffer. That is not the goal of a Torah life. Ultimately, God prescribes man the ultimate way to enjoy this world by partaking of the world with Hashem's blessing, first of all, and with Hashem's directives in mind. We take the most we can from this world. And a foolish lie that the Yetzer Hara tells a person is that religious life is a life of suffering, it's a life of giving everything up. The opposite is true. True suffering is living the life that goes against Hashem's ways, because you're denying the soul and the body what is truly its portion. You're perverting everything and robbing everything of its true value. So you're convinced to pursue a life that is valueless, that is empty and false. And in the end, you have nothing. So that's the lie. But when you follow a life of Torah, you get to partake of this world in a way that you have this world, and you have the truth, and you have value, and you have what comes later. So the best life we can live, not just for tomorrow, but for today, is a life that shows us how to utilize this world for its ultimate good. And ultimately, we can see the good in that and take pleasure in living this godly life in this world. And with Hashem's help, through this work, letting the neshama teach us the true way, the way of Torah, we can unite body and soul, which is the ultimate purpose of the Torah. The Torah was given to make peace and harmony in the world by uniting body and soul together.